Uh-oh.
Uh,
I didn't check.
Brett, no sound. Hello, Brett. All right. Okay, hang tight. Working on. I heard sound on Twitch.
Facebook
Those are
and YouTube.
Facebook.
Looks like Facebook doesn't have sound.
YouTube
rather.
and Twitch, and Scott Wakefield just sent a message. Royal Airships.
I got.
Okay,
I got,
Royal Airships now says loud and clear.
All right.
Yep, and they got it. Yeah.
All right, so
Brett,
that's on
number one son.
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
I was their number one son, but they treated me like number two.
So hold on now. Sid, you probably get this one, right? You Oh, wait a minute. I got an echo all of a sudden. You know.
Yeah, Facebook is working.
You know, number one son, right?
Charlie Chan.
That's right. And I'm still getting an echo. I've got a screen open somewhere.
There are Charlie
go.
Chan movies on Amazon Prime.
Really?
Yeah.
I told Brett when I did that, I named that to him, put his name that way, and he's like, okay. I'm said, it's a reference you won't get. We'll watch a movie later. Right? Yeah, that's right. So
let me tell you one thing I love about Charlie Chan is that some of the movies starred an actor named Sidney Toler as Charlie Chan. There were very few Sidneys when I was a kid. So
oh, really?
Yeah. So anywhere a Sidney cropped up, I was happy.
Of course, one of the most famous ones of certainly of our youth was Sidney Poitier, right?
Yeah. And I was always, he was an Oscar winner and everything.
Yeah.
So that was always cool. Yeah.
Is he related to Jackie Chan? Are we talking about the same?
No.
Charlie Chan's he's a fictional character.
Tommy should know that.
Jackie Chan is kind of.
You be careful,
fictional.
Tommy. I'll rename you too.
What are you going to change it to?
I don't know. I'll figure it out if you keep acting up.
Tommy needs to shut up. Is what you need to put.
So, all right. So yeah. So Barb, we're going to talk. We're going to come back because you're kind of in the middle of talking there a little bit. We're going to come back and pitch pitch Divinity just a little bit before we get on to the craft session. So I saw you hold up some images earlier, so maybe we can kind of flash those through the not right now, but flash those when we kind of talk about it.
Sure.
Okay, so next up on Murderer's Row here is Sidney Williams.
I'm here. We had talked about naming our upcoming projects and doing log lines, so I thought that's what I would do.
Oh, you know what? Let's just introduce. We'll come back and do that then.
Oh, okay. Cool.
Yeah,
All right. Well, Sidney Williams, writer, and bon vivant.
So what do you write?
Comics, novels. Oh, I can say this
So,
while
wait,
we're
on the Silverline stream. What do you write for Silverline, Sid?
Well, I thought I was going to do the log lines, and then you said don't do that. So I can talk about. I got
your Cat Ladies?
Contributor's copy of Cat Ladies of the Apocalypse. Yeah.
Nice.
So I actually have a physical copy of it. I wrote a story in this collection called The Witch of Washington Park.
Nice.
But I have written many things for Silverline. I wrote the Mantis Files, Sirens, a New Orleans voodoo horror story. I wrote The Scary Book, which we may talk more about. And I wrote Marauder, a 4-issue miniseries that's an action-adventure superhero type story. Kirk Connell, the Marauder, is one of those guys who is very acrobatic and athletic, but he has no actual superpowers. He's kind of like, he's not that he's like Batman, but he's non super like Batman.
Well, I've always kind of thought, and correct me if I'm wrong, Sid, I've always kind of thought of him more like an action hero, kind of like James Bondish. Right? I mean, he's not James Bond, but I mean, in that vein in which James Bond does all these sort of superhero super stuff, but he's not superpowered.
Yeah, and he is a thief by profession, part of a high, a very noble thieves guild. They steal things that back for their rightful owners and things like that. There's almost like a noble ethical order to what they do. But in order to execute great thefts, you have to be very athletic and be able to hang upside down and swing from things and do all sorts of things. And so he is well trained.
And the opening sequence for issue 1 is him hanging down, right?
Yeah, he
Yep.
and his mentor are entering a museum to steal a jewel that is guarded by deadly snakes, and things, of course, go wrong beyond their planning or anything they could
Of
have
course.
hoped for. And
And we're gonna have to get Becca to say the title of that book too. So.
Oh no!
Yeah.
Don't embarrass.
Very, very good. Thank you very much, Sid. So next on my murderer's row is Becca Winslow.
Oh, yay. Hi. I'm Becca. I am coloring Mordor. Did I say
No.
Mortar is this project back here. That's not Silverline.
That's where they threw the ring in. And
Yeah, I was gonna say that's
ring.
where they tossed the
you
ring.
need the hobbits to head toward.
yeah, that's a different story.
So Becca, listen, you don't need to feel bad, because one of the funniest times ever, Sid and I were sitting together. I think it was Sid, and someone came up to us and said, "I really like Mara Uder." Mara Uder, and we're like, "Great, what book again?" They said, "Mara Uder." I really like Mara Uder. I'm like, "What's Mara Uder?" We don't, the one in it. Oh, Marauder.
Marauder.
There
You got it. Yeah.
Maybe his name is Mar and he drives an Uber.
Yeah, that's right.
All right.
Mar of Uber.
Y'all gonna make it so she's not gonna want to come back on. So y'all.
No, that's not so. That's not so.
No. I still get made fun of for messing up guacamole 10 years ago for my family. This is nothing.
What'd you say? What'd you say?
What?
What did you call it? I want to know what you called it.
No, like making it. I messed up
Oh,
making it, so
I thought you were calling
yeah.
it silly
I've been-
things.
I've been banned from making guacamole.
One bad batch and you're branded for
That's
life.
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay.
write that down. No guac from her.
No guac.
No guac. Yeah.
Don't let
We don't ask her to bring guac to the
No,
silver.
don't let-
no. You can bring the salsa.
if there's a party and everybody's bringing something, no guacamole.
She's bringing the chips.
Yeah.
Chips.
I bring it pre-made.
All right. So we've given you enough grief. So what else are you doing?
Well, I finished coloring Frere Rush. That was, did I say that one right?
Yeah.
Close. Fryer
Fire Rush.
Rush. Yeah.
Really,
The
I
sequel's
had-
going to be Frere Jacques.
So here's the way you can remember that one, Becca. So you watched Robin Hood, right?
Yes.
Okay. So the little religious dude that hangs out with Robin Hood is who?
The
fat.
priest?
Yeah. Oh yeah. What's his name? The priest guy.
Oh my god.
Fat guy.
I don't remember Friar Rush.
Obi-Wan
it's
Kenobi, wasn't it?
Friar Tuck.
Obi-Wan Kenobi.
No, he's Friar Tuck,
Friar
right?
Tuck.
As a guy who hangs out with Robin Hood. Yeah, Friar
I-
Tuck.
Yes, you can see I didn't grow up religious, so I don't.
That's Robin Hood.
Unless you're in the Dominican.
It's just
Yeah.
Roland's running off everybody.
just
No.
Geddy Lee from Rush in a monk's robe.
What order was Friar Truck? Friar Truck.
The
Friar Truck.
the fire truck coming through. That's another book.
Was he a
the one John's
Jesuit? What
working on.
was he?
Yeah. I don't know. Is that a serious question?
I
Oh, I figured you probably knew the answer.
actually know, but I
Oh.
just got curious now.
Oh,
Yeah.
so and Becky didn't include it because you might not know. I'm not real sure, but Friar Rush is scheduled to be. We're planning to kickstart Friar Rush in July.
Oh, yay!
So,
Cool.
yeah,
I didn't
yeah.
do that.
Yeah, I wasn't sure. I thought I had said something, but I'm like, I may not have said something to you. But yeah, so it's
My
it's
memory is worse than my speech, so
okay. So I'll
Yeah.
blame you then.
Is Friar Rush going to be a double header as well?
Yes.
Yeah, we have got so many books now for Silverline that we're having to do double header Kickstarters to get them all out.
Yes, and I think that is a great problem to have. But we got a lot of stuff coming, and it's looking down the road. See, even Alex gives a thumbs up there. Looking down the road, The one in September will. Tommy's got his own thumb now. The one in September will probably also be a double feature. So for the foreseeable few months here, the next couple of Kickstarters are all going to be doubles. So and again, from my perspective, that's a good thing, because that means we're producing a lot of books and hopefully gonna make a lot of fun comics and entertainment for folks. So
Well, it means a lot of good stuff for people that are backing. Too.
Yep. I think so. I think so as well. So okay, thank you.
Consistent and dependable.
That's right. That's it. And you know, our philosophy here is we're not going to crowdfund these until they're done, because we have seen so many crowdfundings that weren't done, and we have seen so many fans be very upset because they're waiting months and years for their product, and that's not who we want to be. We want to, if you're going to support us, we want to deliver. And so yeah, so you're going to get your stuff just as quickly as we can get the money from Kickstarter, or if we're eventually going to use some Indiegogo stuff. As soon as we can get the money, get the books printed, and get the books shipped, which we do have an update on Kalis after we're through with Murderer's Row here. So yeah, Becca, it's slated for July. Next up on Murderer's Row here is Thomas Florimonte, or you might hear us all call him Tommy.
Hey, how's everybody doing? I am mostly, well, I've been around for a little since late 90s, inking stuff for pretty much everybody, but right now I am
early
inking,
90s.
Was it?
Yes.
Oh, that's right. I got, yeah.
Older than you think.
Yes, you're right. It was early 90s.
Yes,
wasn't
it
it?
was
Oh my
early
goodness.
90s.
So anyway, but right now I am currently inking the really cool book called Trumps. Here's some, you can't really see.
Woot, woot.
I'm mostly doing it digitally, which is what I'm going to be demonstrating for people today.
Tonight.
So,
Cool.
Yep.
And what else do you do, Tommy?
Oh, I am the co-owner of Kablam Digital Printing. I'm like, what else did I do? Getting in trouble? Is that what you mean? Mostly getting in trouble with my wife all the time. No, I co-owned Kablam Digital Printing with my business partner, Barry Gregory, longtime friend of Roland's and myself.
Who I've known for forever almost.
For forever, ever, even way longer than I've known before 90s. That was in
That's
70s
right.
that you've known. So
that's right. It goes back to the 70s. That
we're not that old. We can't talk about it. And but I also do my own line of books called, there's a kid hero kind of line of stuff. It's more cartoony, kind of manga kind of looking stuff that I really like drawing, cartoony kind of stuff when I do my own stuff. But when I'm inking for other people, it's whatever they want me to ink is what I'm doing.
And I'm a big fan of Zomboy, which you have right behind you.
There he is.
Yep, I'm a big fan.
And then on this side, Little Nan So. This is my wife right here, the one I keep getting in trouble from all the time.
Excellent. Thank you, Tommy.
Oh, yeah.
And next up here is Alex, who is muted, but I think you can hear him. I saw him put a 3 down on his pad there, because I think he was asking me a question.
Yeah, I was saying like
Cat and Mouse 3.
We got a double header going. Why not just keep the ball rolling? Do 3.
Oh, 3 books at one. Well,
maybe some Silverline.
Let's see how the double headers go first. Okay?
Yeah.
Before we get too ambitious.
Yeah. So now one thing, Alex, is if I'm remembering, one thing Alex might be talking about is we talked about doing some collected first issues. Is that what you're talking about, Alex?
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah. So we're still kind of kicking the idea around, but this would be 3 trades, right? 3 trades would be new Silverline number 1s, classic Silverline number 1s in color, because some of them have been and are in the process of being colored, like Marauder and like Sirens. And then the other one would be classic Silverline in black and white. So we could do 3 trades that have number 1 issues as kind of a Silverline starter thing. So I like that idea, and so we're still kicking that around.
Silverline starter pack.
Yeah,
I was just gonna say, like a starter pack.
Yep,
That's
absolutely. And this would be trades that someone can get. You know, if they get the trade, they get in the trade the Silverline new stuff would be the new Cat and Mouse would be Kalis 1, Divinity 1, Fry Rush 1, Twilight Graham 1. You know, that's 5 books. That's I can't do math. 120 pages, something like that, right? So be for a great trade. And then as far as the color classics, we've got Demon's Tales is already colored. Cray is colored. Silverstorm #1 is colored. I'm trying to think of what else. Sirens is getting there. But anyway, yeah. So that's kind of what he's talking about. So Alex, tell everybody who you are.
I'm Alex Gallimore. I'm the penciler for Cat and Mouse, and so this is a page. You know, tonight be inking a panel, but yeah, currently the penciler in Cat and Mouse.
Yeah, and what Alex is not saying is Alex is a Silverline super recruiter.
Oh, I don't know if I was putting that out there yet.
No. Alex has been super recruiting. In fact, I reached out to Becca thanks to Alex. So he's and what he's doing now. So Alex has got a lot of his QB buddies because Becca's a QB graduate. Alex is a QB graduate.
And what does that mean? QB. Is that a type of art style?
QB stands for the Kubert School.
Oh, look, another big thumbs up.
Yeah, I see everybody's got thumbs going now.
I was gonna say, we need to stress that.
Oh, absolutely. I think
a friend of ours said Kubert School is like the Harvard of comics art.
Well, and here's what I always would tell, because when people ask me, right? So when I was an editor at Malibu and at Marvel, we got Marvel used to take submissions in. They no longer take submissions. We got, dozens and dozens and hundreds of submissions. Most of them were crap. Okay, but whenever we got a submission from someone who said they went to the Kubert School, we always looked at it because we knew a couple of things, right? We knew if they went to the Kubert School and they went through the Kubert School, they would know what they're talking about, right? They would know how to tell a story. Now, the question then became, as far as we were concerned, the question then became one of style. It's like, I don't question someone who went to the Kubert School and we assume did well, right? I don't question their ability to tell the story. What my question is, well, do I like the style? Because, comic this very, I'm not going to say judgmental, but really, it's a visual medium, right? You pick up a comic book because you like the way it looks. And then hopefully you come back to the comic because you like the way it read. And so, so we anytime we got a Kubert School, someone from the Kubert School submitted something to us, we knew that they had the ability to do the work. Now, the ability and doing it is two different things, right? Someone can have the ability to do the work, but not have the ability to meet a deadline. So that was always, a big question mark for us. Was like, well, we see that they have the chops, but can they meet a deadline? And then, like I said, the big question was just one of style. Do I like the style, and would that style look good on this book that I'm thinking about? So, so we're pretty excited that Alex was such a popular guy at the Kubert School. So I'll have to tell my and Kubert School is obviously named after the dearly beloved Joe Kubert. Who has since left, and I'll have to tell my Joe Kubert story sometime. It's a good one. Still has a place right here. But
I loved Joe Kubert art as a kid.
Yeah. Good stuff. Guy knew how to tell a story, and that's the thing that I think I love so much about it is that part of, and I think that's missing in a lot of modern comics today. People go out, it's so easy to do comics now that there you go. There's a Tarzan, Joe Kubert Tarzan. Yeah. People just go out and draw stuff, and they don't necessarily know how to tell a story. So, all right. So next up, thank you, Alex. Anyway, next up on our murderers row here is Brent Larson. Brent, who are you?
I'm Brent Larson.
Yeah.
I am the creator and writer of the comic book from Silverline, Kalis. I don't know
Excellent.
anything else for you guys. I think I'm actually a drag on the rest of you, so I'm sorry.
No, you're not a
Down?
drag.
Is that what it is?
Yeah, this is, in fact, this is my thumbs up.
There you go.
That's right,
Oh.
and that's why I hire professional artists.
All right, and last but not least is John Metych. John.
Hey everybody, my name's John Metych. I'm an editor at Silverline. I'm also the creator and writer of Sniper and Rook. Sniper and Rook is a action adventure book featuring two characters, Sniper and Rook, who work for the U.S. government. So they're anywhere from spy missions, undercover missions, alien invasions, you name it. If the government could possibly have their fingers in it, Sniper and Rook might be there.
Very cool. So he already gave his pitch, didn't he, Sid? Yeah.
Well, yeah,
Is that the log line?
Oops, jump the gun.
That's okay.
But,
So, but,
going back to the Cheaper School, I never had a chance to meet Joe, but I can't believe it's been almost 30 years ago. I had a chance to hang out with his son Adam one day when he was doing a signing at a comic book store that I was looking at. Remarkable man, even at that point. So Joe, I always heard great things about, and he seemed to instill that into his kids as well.
Yeah, Adam and Andy did when I first kind of became aware of their work, they did an Adam Strange prestige format book for DC. It's a gorgeous looking book. I can't remember the year, probably 86, 87, something like that. You remember that, Tommy, at all? You remember that Adam Strange that did?
Was it a big book?
I mean,
it was prestige format.
It wasn't. Yeah, it was prestige format. I mean, it was a regular size comic, but it was prestige format. It wasn't like 11 by 17. No.
Oh, I don't remember that one.
And off camera, not you won't see his face or even hear his voice. Probably is my son Brett, who is handling all our production work this week. He's putting up all the videos and the pictures and all that kind of cool stuff, making sure that this is all going to all of you so that you can see it. So thank you, Brett.
Brett Mann and his orchestra.
That's right. Yeah. So so before I get to the pitches, which we kind of talked about, not live, but we talked about doing some pitches. We'll talk about Kalis for a second. So Kalis just I'm going to say, again, I'm not good with numbers, but I'm going to say Kalis is 97% fulfilled. And we've got a short little video here to show you with Brent signing some Kalis stuff.
Okay, it's moving now. All right, Brent, what are we doing?
I'm signing Kalis issue 2.
That's right. We are here signing, or he is here signing Kalis, number 2 for the Kickstarter. As you can see, there's a bunch of them over here, getting ready. And here's some right here, right? Some good stuff here. Brent?
Yeah.
They gonna like it?
They better like it.
They better like it, that's right.
Yes.
And hey, what about number 3? Are we working on number 3?
We are like a third of the way through the inks on issue 3.
Sweet!
So
all right, so all you Kalis fans, gobble up number 2 and just know that we got number 3 we are busy working on for you. So, all right, say bye, Brent.
Bye, Brent.
All right. So as you can see, Brent signed all of those copies there, and we shipped them out. So if you were a Kalis 2 backer, keep your eyes on the Postal Service, except for I think there's 5 or 6 of you who have art rewards. And the reason that you're not getting those is because the postal system is closed in Argentina. Lewis, who is sending the original art and who did the commissions for you, he's done them. I've seen. He actually even sent me a little video, which will be a part of the extras when we send that out. This done, but the postal system is closed down there, so he literally cannot send them to us. I got a message from him about 3 days ago that he said he thought the postal system was going to open up in about 10 days. So for those of you who have art rewards, I apologize. It's nothing we can do. We're going to hang on to your books until we get the artwork, and as soon as we get that, we'll send it out. So hopefully you can see it there. Yeah, Alex is showing his retro version for Kalis number 2, which actually I brought these here, so you can see This is the Kickstarter edition, which features an Alex Gallimore cover on it. It's a gorgeous looking cover. This is the one that you could only get. Look at all the thumbs up here. This is the one you could only get by backing the Kickstarter. So for those of you Kickstarter backers, you're really fortunate to get this great cover. And then of course this is the regular edition cover. For those of you who are going to end up getting it in the stores and stuff like that, this will be the cover that you will get. And one of the things that Silverline likes to do, because we've been around for so long, we like to do our retro edition, and that's the old Silverline logo, and we call it retro. And what do we mean by retro? Simply, it's a black and white comic book, like we used to do in the 1980s when we first started making independent comics. We made them all in black and white because we couldn't afford to do color. So this is our retro. This is our retro edition that we've so far brought with every Kickstarter Silverline has done, and we will plan to do that unless something just changes. I kind of like them. They're kind of cool. So far, the pencilers and inkers have told me that they love to see those because they get to, see the crisp lines. So yeah, as far as I'm concerned, we'll probably continue to do those. Okay, so before we get to our indie comic review this week by Wayne Hall, we're going to go around, and one of the things we talked about, as Sid started to launch into it, John kind of already did it. We said we were going to do some, we were going to practice giving our convention pitches. So one of the things that's difficult can be difficult to do is trying to, in a very short period of time, trying to tell a potential reader, a potential fan, a potential customer, potential buyer, whatever you want to call them, trying to convince them or tell them what you've got in a very short period of time. So one of the things that we're going to start trying to do here is maybe practice that a little bit. So who wants to go first? Sid, you want to jump in and go first?
I can do. I've got Bloodline and Friar Rush. You want me to do Friar Rush?
Yeah, well,
Bloodline.
Becca, do you feel okay, yeah.
Does Becca want to do Friar Rush?
Camera's malfunctioning.
No,
I think your camera's falling over.
I think that's a no. Yeah, so do Bloodline first.
Bloodline? Okay.
Yeah.
Bloodline. In a world ruled by vampires, a cynical biker who once acted as a procurer of victims seeks redemption by joining a band of resistance fighters out to stop a powerful vampire overlord and derail his underground train that's transporting blood slaves.
Cool. Good. Right? What do you guys think? You like it?
If you said it with that voice in that creepy kind of sound, I would buy one.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
that can be arranged.
Yeah.
All right,
and it's quick, right? So if you've got a convention attendee standing in front of you, you don't drag on and on and on. You tell them what it is, and they're either going to like it or not. Good, cool. I like it, Sid.
Did you memorize that, or did you read that?
He read it.
I'm reading it.
Okay, cool.
Hey, John,
I got something in front of me that's like my cheat sheet. And I'm like, oh, please tell me that I don't have to measure up to that. Because if you memorize that, that's impressive.
Okay, John, are you ready for this? I've got mine memorized.
What's that?
I've got mine memorized.
I've heard yours. I got yours.
Tommy's got mine memorized. Yeah. All right. So
everybody say it with him.
Yeah, right. Let's all together now. All right. So Sid will come back to Friar Rush. Barb, what about you? You ready to pitch Divinity?
You bet. All right. Divinity is an 11-year-old girl with the ability to heal. She must go on the run with her brother to escape an evil cabal. 11-year-old Divinity Gray's life changes forever after the suspicious death of her parents. Marine Sergeant Zach Gray, the older brother she barely knows, becomes her guardian. But when he discovers Divinity's mysterious healing powers, their lives take a dangerous turn. With the help of a few friends, Zach and Divinity must go on the run to keep Divinity and her powers out of the hands of government officials, religious fanatics, greedy corporations, and the evil cabal.
Nice.
Along the way, they will experience. Yeah, I'm not done. Hang on.
Okay, sorry.
Along the way, they will experience the best and worst of humanity, and in the process, learn how to become a family.
Oh,
There you go.
Cool. Yeah, very cool. Yeah, we like running from governments, right?
Oh, yeah.
Very cool. All right.
Evil government seems to be big right now. Yes.
Oh yeah. All right. So John, what about you? Sniper and Rook, pitch it to us.
All right, so I'm going to be
And
reading.
just remember, I have mine memorized. No pressure.
I've got two. All right.
Okay.
So Jack Barton, Sniper, and Rebecca Page, Rook, are covert military operatives serving the United States directly under the command of Decorated General Davis Jefferson. Their inaugural mission to rescue the president from terrorists who have infiltrated the White House goes awry, and Sniper and Rook soon find themselves in the middle of a conspiracy that spans multiple continents. It is now up to Sniper and Rook, along with their newfound friends, or are they, to untangle the web of lies and deceit they've been thrust into, uncover the true masterminds of this international scheme, and obliterate these who would seek to destroy the American way of life.
Haha, very cool.
Does Sniper look like Liam Neeson?
Yeah. I've had different people that I would have. I've done like movie things for them, like, you know, throughout the years, who I'd want to have play the characters. These days, it would be the gentleman who is the main character on Timeless. I forget his name right now. I feel awful for doing so, but he also does the voice of Anakin Skywalker for Clone Wars. So that's who I'd be picturing these days.
I will find you. I have a special set of skills.
Yeah. All right, very good, John. So Brent, Kalis,
Is it Matt Latner?
And
Lanter, sorry.
Yeah, he is amazing.
Can't. Sorry. Can't. Oh.
Okay. I believed you there for a minute there. I'm like, wait a minute, what's wrong?
Yeah. All right. Oh, that's much better. I think I had something on my phone. Okay.
Yeah.
Kalis is the story of an astronaut that goes up in the 60s into space as part of a CIA-backed space program and disappears until he mysteriously reappears and falls back to Earth in modern day. And he immediately begins on his quest to get back to where he came from. And the people that he meets and makes friends with along the way will slowly learn who he is, where he's been, why did he come back, and they will find out about the forces that will stop at nothing to keep him from returning to space.
Nice.
Cool.
Very good. Now, were you reading that one?
Nope.
Excellent.
I'm in film. I have to do log lines as part of my job. Yes.
So far, all of these are hitting my adventure kink.
Yeah.
I like movies like that.
And if you notice, none of us seem to trust the government.
Yeah. Gee, that's a common thread, isn't it? All right, so I'll do mine, and then Sid will jump to you for Friar Rush, and then Barb, we're gonna talk about some of the sweet things that we have coming up for the Kickstarter before we move on to the next thing. All right. So mine is, all right, John, you ready? You watching? Watch this, right?
Absolutely.
All right. Cat and Mouse is a story of a guy who gets a telephone call from his ex-fiancée. She asks him to go to New Orleans to get her runaway kid sister. He doesn't really want to do it because it's his ex-fiancée, but he's studying to be a police officer, so he says, all right, well, let me go and see what I can do. So he heads to New Orleans, only to find out that that the kid's sister has been caught up in a human trafficking ring. So he has to figure out how to get her out of the human trafficking ring and get her back home. And yes, there are ninjas involved.
Very impressive.
I was almost going to say the ninja part.
What, Brett? My son's talking in my ear where y'all can't hear. What? Okay, great. It's so fun, huh?
Take that in the best possible light.
Yeah. That's the love I get from my son, right? Okay. Okay, so Alex, don't encourage him.
Well, how many days of his life has he heard that pitch?
Yeah, I know. All right, Sid, you ready for Friar Rush?
Yeah, do we have art for Friar Rush we can pull up, or
Yep, I think so. Brett, can you? Yeah, Brett's got some.
Cool. I just thought that would be cool. Okay. Friar Rush, when a hacker unleashes a 15th century demon trickster into the modern world. A failed seminarian turned reporter and an immortal novice race to avert a plan to devastate masses using a corrupt televangelist and a rock concert straight out of hell.
I love it. I love it. So I think we're going to have to, Brent and I talked briefly about doing trailers for our comics. And I think we may have to, we may have to recruit Sid to do some of the, the voiceovers on that, right?
You hear me talk about, Robert Pettit, who co-authored the short story that Bloodline is based on. And his son calls me every once in a while now, Justin. And I was talking to Justin the other night, and he said, you ought to narrate things.
Yeah. Well, I told you I enjoy your monthly book readings that you do.
Well,
I would like to see you stop reading flash fiction though, and maybe read some short stories, something a little bit longer. That's just me, but
I need to do that. It's just when you're producing and everything yourself.
Right. Oh, I know.
Hard to.
We know some people. There's a guy on my screen who's right above you that might be able to help you. I don't know where he is on your screen, but on my screen, Tim TK is right above you.
Maybe we could work that out to where he we
thumbs up. Yeah.
Fire up the cameras and.
All right, so Alex, Rebecca, or Tommy, y'all want to try to pitch anything? Y'all want to pitch something? I know I'm kind of catching you off guard here. I think Becca's no TikTok means no, right? Okay, Becca, not this time.
I mean, I didn't bring this up to you, but I was gonna send you a sample script that I wrote. If you're interested,
sure, send it on.
That's how I did it.
Yeah.
I can give you that pitch.
Sure, do that.
It's called Unmedicated. It's about a schizophrenic who solves crimes with his imaginary creatures, and it's from his point of view, so you never know who's real and who's not.
Cool. We like schizophrenics too. Yeah.
Hey, if I can come up with a whole story from a dream, that's the whole premise of Divinity. Was like it came to me in a dream.
Yep. So, Tommy, do you want to give it a shot or something? No, I'll give you more warnings next time.
Yeah,
we'll work on the one for Trumps, and then
I'm inking. I pick up a pen, and then you got card game.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
No, that's not good.
All right, so we do have Kickstarter coming in 6 days now. It's going to start next Tuesday, and it will be it's called Silverline Double Feature. It was going to feature 2 books, Divinity #1 and Twilight Grimm #1. Twilight Grimm is written by R.A. Jones with art by Rob Davis, colors by Mickey Clausen, and Mike W. Belcher is the letterer for that. And then Divinity is created by Barb, who is here with us. Barb co-wrote with R.A., and then Alex Sarabia did the pencils, and Barb inked it, of course, and then it was colored by Steve Matson, and it's pretty cool. Steve colored it old school style. Yeah, Alex is showing cover for Twilight Grimm there, which, if I remember correctly, Alex, that's going to be one of the rewards, right? I know I messed it up the first time, but
correct.
Yes. Okay.
And it's the Kickstarter exclusive cover.
Yes, Kickstarter exclusive cover, and that is going to be that original piece of art that you're looking at on Alex's screen. There is going to be one of the rewards. And Barb, you have in your possession there. You can kind of sneak them across the screen. You have a couple of pieces that are also going to be art rewards, right? Yes,
that's right.
Yes. This is the first time anybody's seeing this. So what is this, Barb?
This is an original piece. This is a Divinity, and it's done all by Kevin West. I didn't do the inks on this one. He did it all. And this is absolutely stunningly beautiful. I'm having a really, really hard time giving this away.
Yes.
I'm like, oh, maybe don't buy it, people.
Yeah. So if you'll recall, Kevin did something for the first Cat and Mouse Kickstarter as well. So Kevin is a friend of Silverline. We love Kevin.
So I also have a piece by Mitch Faust, and I did ink this one. He penciled it. I inked. This is Divinity here, and this is her brother Zach, and this is Olivia, who will come along to help these guys out as they go on the run.
And Mitch is another friend of Silverline. He did the mouse trading card.
That's right.
Cool.
Yes, the mouse trading card that was with issue number 2.
We also have a crossover from Cat and Mouse and Divinity done by Alex Sarabia and inked by me. This is we were trying to promote both books because I work on both books, so we have a crossover piece here.
Gorgeous piece too.
This is a sweet piece.
Oh,
very,
my goodness.
very sweet. This is pencils by Mel Ruby and inks by me. I've worked on Mel in the past. I absolutely adore his pencils. Now he also did a version where he inked it himself, which is what we are using for the Kickstarter exclusive cover for Divinity.
Yeah. And you colored that though, right?
I colored that version, yes, and I inked this version.
Yeah.
So
you inked the version that is going to be a reward.
A reward, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Here's another old pal of mine, Jeff Johnson. We did Solitaire together for Malibu Comics many years ago.
Yep.
And yep, he stepped up again to pencil this lovely, lovely piece.
Yep. Which
will also be a reward. And another old penciler of mine. I've inked everybody, basically. Rick Hoberg did a version of Zach.
And I worked with Rick on Strangers.
That's right. And all of these are going to be rewards for the Kickstarter. They will be available for sale.
Yes. So if you are a fan of original art and some gorgeous original art that is suitable to frame and put on your wall, you have now, hopefully this has whetted your appetite and you'll be ready next Tuesday when the Kickstarter launches. So. All right. Well, we see that John Martin has finally got his technical issues resolved. So before we go to the comic review, John, you want to tell everyone who you are, and then we'll do the comic review, and then we'll get on to our inking segment.
Yeah, I ink Friar Rush. I inked the first issue, working on the second issue. And that's pretty much who I am, other than the non-tech savvy Viking.
And you have tech problems.
Tons of them. I got a hard drive that I think is gone.
Well, we are glad that you made it so that you can throw some inks along tonight. So, all right. So we're going to go now to a review, Indie Comics review by Wayne Hall. And then when he's over, we're going to jump into our craft session. So, Brett.
All right, it's time for the second edition of Indie Comics that I'm doing here on this good show. This time I want to talk about a book that I got through local comic shops, and which is still available if you go to Oni Press. The individual sections are not there, but the omnibus for this book is still available. If you go to onipress.com, I think you'll find it there. This book is called Gorillas, and I love the play on the word gorillas that's going on in there. What's happening in this book is, and it's a black and white book basically, it's written and drawn by the same person, Bram Revel, and I got to interview him for my podcast one time. What the basic story is about in this book is there's a platoon that gets ambushed in Vietnam. This takes place in the 60s. And the one person left is the medic. And all of a sudden he wakes up and he thinks there's another platoon that's coming to rescue him. But instead of being humans, they're all gorillas, hence the cover. There are a bunch of them of different types, different primates, all in this platoon, and they end up taking the human with them as they go through Vietnam together. And you notice one of the things they do here on the cover, which is really interesting, I did talk with Bram about this, is he's smoking. And when the author did some research on this, he discovered that when people went to zoos and things like that, if people were smoking around and they would discard their cigarettes, sometimes the gorillas and the apes and stuff would pick up the butts that were left and start to smoke them, and they would become addicted. And that plays into the story in this book a little bit, because the guy that's the medic, he ends up with cigarettes, and what he does is he has them and he starts to smoke, and when the gorillas discover that he's smoking, they of course want to get in on the action too, and that's part of the thing. One of the important things about this book is that this is not anthropomorphic stuff. This is not like Mighty Mouse, where the mouse looks sort of human. These are real apes portrayed realistically. And I really love that about this book. And it's not done in such a way that it looks sort of silly. This is very serious stuff. And of course, it's based in the Vietnam War, where terrible things are going on all around them. And this platoon is not immune to that. As the story progresses, they don't all make it, shall we say. So there is a part in the story in which you are going to feel really sad because one of them, as I said, doesn't make it, as the way I like to put it. The interesting thing is the fact that the apes and the gorillas, even though they are different kinds, they have different personalities, and we get to know them. Their roles within the platoon are different, and their appearance is different. You can really tell one from the other. But this book really got me, and I got it when the first issue came out, the first volume, as they like to call it. And when this book came out, I got it from Oni Press because I like to scour some of the more obscure publishers and find some of the stuff that they're doing. The premise of this book just got me. And I'll read a little bit from the back just because I think it's important to get this in. It says, death surrounds Private John Francis Clayton. For a first tour soldier in Nam, trouble lurks around every corner, whether it's from the Viet Cong that hide out in the jungle or his brothers in arms who mistrust him as fresh meat. But as bad as Private Clayton's tour of duty has been, he ain't seen nothing yet. When his platoon is massacred in an ambush, he is left utterly alone, surrounded by the enemy on all sides, or so he thinks. Clayton has no idea that his rescue is on the way, let alone his rescuers are a bunch of chimps. Gun-toting, cigar-chomping, military-trained chimps. Now, Private Clayton must join a new unit as this mysterious squad fights for survival in the midst of the strangest war any soldier has ever been part of. As I said, I think this came out in 4 volumes. The omnibus is available still through Oni Press. If you go ahead, your store can probably order it through their website if they need to. I don't know if the previews when it comes back up is going to have that in it. But I really have to highly recommend this book. Even though these are very real primates, you come to understand them and care about the characters. And the things that they get into are really amazing. We discover how they got to be enhanced the way they are, and that plays a big part in the story as it moves forward. And it's just one of those books that, I usually don't like war stories. I'm not a big war character guy. I'm not much for that. And sometimes when I see stuff that I'm surprised by or that I'm not tremendously interested in, I like it. And that's what this book does. It's not a war story in the pure sense of the word, but it is a story that's going to grip you. You're not going to be able to put this down. Now, the omnibus is kind of large. If you look at this book, it's pretty significant. And again, Bram, he drew all the artwork that's in it as well as wrote the story. So it's a passionate story of love that he does. And it's something unlike anything else I've read. And I've been reading comics for a long time, for decades. So Gorillas is one of those books I think that is a standout. It's a little older. It's been out for a little while now. I went through the system when it came out. Each issue or volume came out, I would buy them. And so I didn't get to read the whole story at one sitting like you'll probably be able to do. If you get the omnibus, which usually sells for around $40, you can read the whole story in one sitting. Now, it's going to take you a little while, but once you get dropped into this world, I swear to you, you will not be able to come out until the story's over. It's just one of those fantastic creative endeavors that I think people really ought to be reading. You know, if you are into war stories, you're going to find this something different because of the way that things are going and the way that these do things. I mean, these apes are on their own in Vietnam in the middle of a war. So it's really interesting how the person behind all this kind of gets involved, and it ends interestingly too. One of the things that really drives me nuts about, shall we say, events in a certain company called the House of Ideas, it starts out with great promise, and there's all this wonderful stuff going on. It's going to be the most fantastic event ever. Wonderful, wonderful stuff. Then as we go along, blug, 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 and we get to the end, and it just sort of peters out at the end. It's not a real good story. And then we get to the next event, which comes right along, and we get sucked into that. The same thing happens to that, and this is why I'm not a big fan of events. This book, though, the end will surprise you. I have to say, you're not going to believe the stuff that goes on into it, and it ends up really interestingly. I cannot in any way spoil any of this because it's just so wonderfully done, and it's so based in reality. That's one of the great things about this, is that it's not silly stuff. This is really serious, powerful storytelling. And the fact that they're apes and stuff like that, don't think that's going to be silly, and it's going to you're not going to care about these different characters going along. You will, I can guarantee it. There's certain ones that are my favorites, certain ones are not, but it's just good stuff. So let's get to the grading here. The writing on this book is just terrific, I have to say. It's got to be an A for the writing. The writing is just superb, and the art, which is done by the same person, is also A-level stuff. Now, the lettering is a little different. It's, again, I have trouble sometimes with lettering and stuff like that. I always think that it could be done better. So I'm going to give the lettering a B because it could be a little bit better, but I don't know. I still loved it. So then literary merit. Does this have legs? Will people want to read this? Because it's set back in the past, it lends itself to future readers. If you're in the middle of the pandemic, you can read it just as well as you could like 10 years ago because it's just very well done. So I would give it an A, literary merit, for that. The fun factor, I don't know if I would call this fun. Being a war story, the fun factor is probably a C, in the sense that it's not a lot of fun in war. So the overall grade, I still, despite its faults and stuff, I would say this is still an A book. You need to read this book if you haven't. And I looked at the Oni Press website. All the volumes are sold out except for the omnibus, and that says something, that this is a well-done book, that you're going to really enjoy it. So I have to say, Gorillas, Oni Press, if you can get it through your local shop, all great. If you need to go through the website, but this wasn't originally through local shops, and some local shops I think will still be able to get it for you. So it's Gorillas, and I love the spelling. I think that's a great thing. This is one of those great classic books that I think more people should be reading and should know about. So that's it for this time. And next time I'll have some more reading on. I think you should be aware of some great indie books that are out there that you need to be aware of. But until then, keep reading your comics.
All right. So thank you very much, Wayne, for the indie comic review. We appreciate it very much. As those of you who watch know, that we kind of each week we kind of rotate on a different kind of indie comic. Wayne's doing the new comics, and we have Eric Dion doing classic. There's some kind of noise going on here. Who's making all that racket? That's Thomas's iPad. Yeah.
I think it's coming from John's.
John.
Screen share now. That's all I'm seeing.
Yeah, there's a big racket coming from somewhere. What? Eric Dion doing classic indie comic reviews, and Martin Piero who's doing the crowdfunder comic reviews. So this will be a place where we can showcase other really cool indie comics as well as Silverline. So one of the things I forgot to mention earlier is that what?
Whoopee!
Somebody got loud.
Dogs.
Oh, yeah, I know. Is that what was I going to say, Tim? Remind me.
I responded to comments in the Twitch chat. I'll do it now.
Sci-Fi Diner. Sci-Fi Diner.
Yes.
Yeah.
And Jonathan's the script, the things you see in our description are titles we put out. We're a publishing house. Sci-Fi Diner.
Sci-Fi Diner. Yeah. So yeah, we had I think Brent or Sid, one of them talked on Sci-Fi Diner, and the other one's scheduled. So Sci-Fi Diner is kind of like Comic Chat Authority did a series and still doing. I think there's one more to do. Of interviews with Silverline creators, and Sci-Fi Diner is doing not really an official series, but they're doing some interviews with us as well. So everyone needs to hang on until the end. I know we're about to talk about inking, but there's a kind of a cool reveal. We're going to kind of do something, announce something new at the end, and I think it's going to be kind of a fun thing for us. But today's episode of Craft, we're talking about inking and how they start a page. Okay, so I'm going to have to, somebody immediately. It looks like everybody's self-muted. Oh, that's good. So what we're going to do is kind of like we did with the coloring 2 weeks ago. We want to just see how an assortment of inkers start the page. So when you get a blank page, what's the first thing you do? Barb, since everybody else is already muted, what's the first thing you do when you get a new page to start inking?
Okay, so I get most of my pages, like 99% of my pages come digitally. So I download them I use GIMP, it's a free program. I download them onto GIMP. I turn them blue, as you can see here. I print them out on 500-pound Strathmore on a Brother Pro printer, because that's the only thing that will handle this thickness of page. So I've got my nice blue lines here. And the next thing that you want to do is if it doesn't come pre-lined, which a blank Strathmore page does not come pre-lined, you want to add your registration marks into the corners of your pages here. This allows the letterers and the colorists to line everything up for printing. I'm going to talk a little bit about the types of tools that I use. I've been inking for a very long time, so I use a variety of tools. I use this is a Raphael #2 brush. I used to use Winsor & Newton's, but the quality has gone down lately on those. So I'm really enjoying these Raphaels. The next thing that I use the Micron Pens, and I have a habit of putting colored rubber bands around my favorites, the ones that are the newest, or I designate them by size, by the color of the rubber band. Another thing that I use is the Pigma Brush Pen, as you can see. I'd say about 75% of my pages are done with brush. And now there's two types of whiteout that a lot of people like to use. Now this is the most popular, the Pro White. This is what most people use. I don't like it because when you try to ink over it, it turns into mud. And so I just go out and I buy a 99-cent bottle of white ceramic paint. And this is what I use. Once you brush it down, it dries very, very fast, and it is waterproof. You can ink over it all day long and it never runs. It doesn't turn into a gray, muddy mess. Let me see. I used to use Black Cat ink, but that also, the quality has gone down on that. So I use Speedball and Speedball Black India ink. I have a variety of tools like French curves, templates. I have all kinds of them. I have probably 20 different types of curves and templates hanging around my drawing board. Another thing that I do is that blue lines are kind of faint. So they're kind of hard to see, especially when you get to be my age. So I always make a very clear-cut Xerox copy of my pencils as well before I begin, so that I have a reference. I can hold them up next to each other and see if some of the lines have faded out that I'm kind of missing, so that I can fill them in.
So Barb, tell everyone what blue line is, because you're showing pencils there and then you're showing blue line. For those who don't know the importance of the blue line, why blue line and what is it?
All right, once I get done inking this, I scan it back into the computer, pull it back up in GIMP, and I do a threshold to drop out any values that are light. So that would include anything blue. So once I drop all the blue out of this, the only thing that's remaining that I send off to the publisher is the black that's left behind. So all of this blue will drop out and you're left with just the clear, crisp inks to send off to the editor or publisher.
And that's commonly referred to as non-repo blue.
Correct.
Which just stands for non-reproduction blue. And it is certainly used because of printing. The idea is that does not print as easily as the pencil lines do.
Correct. Now, normally my next step would be to take my pens like this and a ruler and to rule out my panel borders. But since this is a cover, he hasn't included any, so there isn't anything to rule on this. These are pencils by Dean Zachary. This is the cover for Cat and Mouse #4 that I'm working on today.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to start inking on them, and you guys can kind of watch me, and I'll let somebody else talk now.
Okay. And one other thing before we move on to next person, as you mentioned the registration marks. Those are vital. Yep, they're at the very on all four corners. Those are vital for whoever is doing the setup for your book, because that's something that they need to know in order when they send it to the printer, because that determines where the book is going to be trimmed. And if you've got to guess at where that is, which I have done before and messed up, guessed wrong, and then the artist said, "Hey, why did you chop half of this off?" And I'm like, "Well, I didn't have any trim marks, and I didn't know what we were doing." The printer is only going, right, Tommy? The printer is only going to print and chop what you indicate that they do. So these registration marks are vital to have for your production team. Tommy, you're muted. You were saying something, I'm sure, earth-shattering, but you're muted.
Yeah, I saw that. That was kind of embarrassing. Okay, but getting back to what you were saying. No, usually when you're sending, as speaking as a printer, when you're sending the files to us, you're doing all the pre-production stuff. So all of your trim lines and all that stuff, you have to send to us ready to go. As a printer, I'm not looking at what I think you're supposed to trim away and not trim away. You're supposed to send the files ready to go. We print, it automatically gets trimmed properly based off of what you were supposed to send to us. If there was anything special.
That's not your job, right?
No, that's correct. That's as the printer. But as far as on the inking side and the pre-production is what we like to call it side, the stuff that you're doing and the stuff that Barb's setting up and what we're all doing when we set the files up, is making sure that everything's trimmed properly, like you said, everything's to the edge like it needs to be. If it's a full bleed, it needs to be able to needs to bleed off the page. Full bleed means fully bleeding, means bleed See
The
my hand
artwork-
going off the side?
Yeah,
This
that's right.
right there is not on the picture, but that's off. That's off. This is not.
The artwork extends off
There
of the
you
panel.
go. Just like that.
Yeah,
You're
yeah.
demonstrating
The-
full bleed
yeah,
perfectly.
yeah, it
Full
extends off
bleed
the
is
panel.
not just where you think we're going to trim it. Full bleed means off the page. If you
So
you
we
don't do
I
that
don't wanna-
properly.
Yeah, I don't want to dwell here too long, but
got you.
But would you say that that's probably a common problem that people who send you books to print have? Is that
All the
they
time.
don't do it right? Yeah.
All the time. Yeah. Even though we give them a template to download to put their pitch, to put their image in,
Right.
that shows, where we're going to trim, where the safe area is, where safe area meaning, that's kind of more of a comic booky thing where
Sure.
the inside or, inside area.
Right.
That's the
But,
area that's going to print.
Live art.
Yeah. Yeah. And well, even more in, but yeah, you're right. But so we get a lot of people that'll go, oh, they're going to trim on that line. But remember, trimming is a mechanical
Yeah.
thing, and it moves around. It's a mechanical thing. Sometimes we hit it dead on. Sometimes we're on this side. Sometimes we're on this side. Because
Right.
it's all mechanical. So that's why when you do full bleed, which is what Barb was showing by those little crop lines, go past that with your art.
Crop lines,
The art
yeah.
has to go past it.
Yeah, I call them registration marks, and that's not what they are. They are crop lines. Sorry.
Well,
thank
it's all
you.
the same thing.
Yeah, yeah. Well, no, not really, right? Because the crop is where you're cropping. The registration
True.
is how
Registration's
you
for
line up
when
the
you
color
lay in the color,
plates.
when you're doing
Yeah.
the traditional printing where they have all
Yes.
the plates and stuff, but all the
Yeah.
digital stuff, there's the registration is either it's all internal and we're not, we don't.
For those of you who are out there yelling at me, those aren't registration marks. Those are crop lines. You're absolutely correct. I used the wrong terminology. They are crop lines and not registration marks. So yeah. So Tommy, can you show us what's the when you get a new page to ink?
Well,
what's the
I'm
first thing
like
you do?
Barb. Back when you reminded me that I've been doing this since early '90s. I forgot. I used all that the traditional stuff, all the brushes, all the India ink, all of the quill pens, and all that kind of stuff. But at some point, I got tired of making such a mess, and I went to disposable pens and stuff when I did traditional ink.
Yeah.
So I mean, I got a handful of stuff here, but it's just you just want to try to get something that's permanent, dark, something that won't erase when you're, because like Barb is inking on a blue line page, but a lot of pages that we get are pencil pages. So after you're done inking it, you get you a kneaded eraser or whatever, and you got to erase the whole page off.
Right.
Oh yeah, that's the way it always was done.
Oh yeah.
And there's nothing more frustrating to a production crew than to get a finished inked page that's poorly erased.
Poorly, or the inker
Because
didn't think that he was supposed to erase
Right.
it, and he just sent the pages in, and
because the scans, when you scan it, then that scan appears to be very dirty.
Yeah,
Now,
because
see,
you see
my
all the
husband-
pencils and stuff.
My husband always used to fill in my blacks, and he used to put double coats on the blacks, and he would go over every single inch with an eraser. He was very, very good at it. I never had
That's
to do that.
what my wife Renee would do too. I would go through and ink everything and put the X's where all the blacks will go, and then she would come in and fill them in, and then usually she would erase them for me while I'm working on the next page. Trying to get the next thing.
It took me a long time to get used to blue lines because I was always, I've done this for a long time and always worked on original pencils. And then I took a hiatus for about 10 years, came back to it, and everybody was working on blue lines because they would send the pencils, over in an email. And I said, what the heck is this? I can't work this way.
Right.
It took me a while to get used to it, but I really like it now because back in the old days, working for DC and Marvel, you'd send in the original artwork and the penciler would get 2/3 of the pages back and the inker would get 1/3 of the pages back. Now I get to keep 100% of my work.
Yeah.
So that's
but
nice.
now the penciler doesn't get any of
pages.
the inks.
Yeah.
If you're doing
except what I heard you say you're doing for Trumps, right?
That's what we're doing. Yeah, because I'm inking Trumps all digital except for the pages that we're going to use for rewards and pages that we're going to, of course I'm inking some on paper for you to have, and then for the penciler can have some to keep. Yep. And then a handful that we can use for rewards, but the rest of it I'm inking just straight digital.
Right.
which
And
I'm
if
going to
it-
try to connect here. And if it blows everything up, then I'm sorry.
And if anybody wonders why I'm jumping around, it's because I don't want to drag my hand through wet ink. So I
Oh,
jump
yeah,
around on the
that's
page.
always a thing. So here, I'm going to try to share my iPad here. We'll see what happens. Somebody talk while I'm trying not to mess this up.
All right.
Oh no, we blew it up.
Yeah. Yeah. So, all right. So it looks like we see you there.
Oh, you see my page?
Oh no, sorry, that's Barb. I'm looking at a split screen here. But it looks like you are headed that way. Thomas Florimonte has started screen sharing. Double click or that's for the screen. Okay,
He
there
blew
you
up the
go.
internet.
Oh, can you see the
There you
page?
go. Yep, absolutely.
All right, so this is Clip Studio.
Okay.
It used to be called Manga Studios, but now it's Clip Art Studio. And so I just basically have the page. This is a penciled page, but I like to ink on
penciled by that's Anthony Pereira, right?
That's correct.
Yeah, Anthony Pereira.
I know it says page 12, but I think this is page 14 actually. So this is a page that I haven't done anything to. So first, what I do is I like, I could ink it straight like this, but I like turning it blue to start off with. Because it's easier for my eye to see. So Clip Studio has all kind of great little features where I could just turn that sucker blue. So now
When I digitally ink
nice.
it, I do the same thing. I turn it blue so I can see the black lines on the top.
Yeah,
Wow.
it when I'm inking this way, because I'm staring at a light source, right? I'm staring at the iPad screen, so it's easier for my eyes. I'm getting old apparently.
Time out just a second. So you turned it blue, and we all saw that. How did you do it? What'd you?
There is a fancy. Okay, so now we go back. So this is the pencils.
Okay.
Right? Up at the very, I know you can't see where I'm pointing, but up at very,
if you tell us where, we can actually see it highlight. So
the very top right now, this is just the way I have my screen set up. You can move all these windows everywhere, but on the very top where it says layer up there, there's a
you paying attention, Becca?
You see where it says layer properties right there? You see, I keep flipping it back and on and off layer properties.
Yes, I see it.
Inside there, there's a thing called effect. So this third one over from the left, or the very furthest one on the right, I guess. You just click that little bad boy and it just booms, turns it blue.
Wow, nice.
And in Procreate, you go to your hue saturation levels on that particular layer and just change them.
Ah, gotcha.
And then what I do is I'm switching back to the regular, the layers, and I'm making another layer, which is just I'm just adding another layer. So I'm going to ink on this new layer, so that way the inks aren't getting affected. So I'm going to actually lock the inks down so I don't actually move them around by accident. So I'm locking it down, switching back over to the other. So now I've got there's a ton of brushes. You can buy a bunch that comes with a bunch. I use basically 3 kind of brushes, one to fake a real brush, like the one that Barb's using there, and then I have one that does like a nib kind of quill, and then I have a tech pen. So I've got 3 different brushes that I can change the size and everything, and so I just start inking. You can see you can. So, but basically what I'll do first is I'll go ahead and I'll rule it all out. I'll do all the borders. So,
okay.
And go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was going to say, so you're ruling all the borders. And since you've been doing it for so long, back pre a lot of the digital stuff, when you received pages, you received the lettered pages? Those also came ruled, right?
Yep, most of the time. Yeah, especially from you guys, because y'all would have it lettered
before you inked
a lot of times. Yeah, unless things were running behind and we were, you were trying to get the inks done really fast, then the penciler would just send them straight to inkers, and then we send it to you guys, and then y'all would.
But now that everything is done digitally, the entire page is down. So back then, you would get a lettered page, and so the inker wouldn't have to ink, quote unquote, kind of under the letters, and the colorist wouldn't have to do that. Now you've got to ink the entire page, and you've got to color the entire page as well, and that's kind of handy for for lots of reasons. It's easy, it makes it easier to edit. Certainly, if you're going to translate it and hopefully print it in a different language, makes it very easy because you don't have to worry about, oh, there's the balloon that's this size, and when you translate this one sentence, it becomes 30 words, and I can't get it into this balloon this size. So it makes it a lot easier for that.
When I do this borders, I'm gonna kind of you can kind of see on this page here where you see all these X's. Those X's are what the inker is supposed to fill in black. I mean, you can see the figure right there where the penciler actually filled in some black area, but there's a lot of spaces on there that are just X'd off. So that's where the penciler is kind of telling us just to fill black. So I say that because I'm going to do something here that's kind of funny. So there is a rectangle drawing tool that I just clicked over on the left-hand side, and I picked rectangle. You can see I can make rectangles everywhere, right? So basically, there's a lot of different ways you can do your panels in Clip here, and I'm not doing them the way that a lot of people do it, because you could actually set each of these panels as this. Golly, I don't want to get too complicated. As a separate little piece of editable art. Now that doesn't make any sense whatsoever, but anybody that knows this program knows that you can define each panel as its own little piece of art. And so when you're working in one, you can jump around, but I still kind of ink traditionally this way. So I'm going to ink the whole borders of everything and just ink it straight. So what I'm going to do is just and if I ramble on, just tell me and I'll try to explain what I'm
okay.
But I'm going to just so right now, you see this panel up here is basically two panels next to side by side, right? Even though it's split down the middle, I'm going to just go ahead and do them both. So that way, because everything needs to line up. So I'm just trying to ink everything as just trying to make it all line up, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So then we've got this little bitty panel here. So I'm going to catch that one. And then I'm looking at some down here is a big one here with I'm gonna fill all these in black in a minute. Now we've got some panels that are overlapping. So when you're doing it by hand, you could just lay your ruler out there and just draw it. But because I like to cheat, I'm gonna make another layer. And I'm going to catch this one here, and I'm going to erase the part that's in the way in a second.
You just gave me an idea.
Yeah. And
I haven't been digitally inking for very long, but you just gave me an idea.
So I'm going to do this one down here. All right, and it looks like I need one more layer so I can get this panel here. And this panel comes all the way over to here. All right. Now I'm going to get the eraser tool, and I'm going to clean up all this mess that I made. And so I go back to this layer, and then let me get a big brush so I can. Oh, wait a minute. Did I get the wrong one? Oh, I got the wrong one. See, it's a good thing. See, digital, you can go back and fix what you messed up.
Yeah, it looks like you're making a mess there.
Yeah, I know, but it won't be in a second.
No smearing.
Nope, no smearing at all. And then I got this panel here. This is this one right here, right? Clear this one out.
Yeah, I swore I'd never digitally ink, and I backed myself off of that. Yeah.
Yeah, because did I talk you into it? Because you and I talked about it one time about a year ago, I think.
Well, it was after I got Procreate and started to color, and I found that at least one of my pencilers, it lent itself better to digitally inks than it did traditional.
And then I got this one down here.
I learned years ago to never say never.
Yeah.
Instead, if I feel that way, so I have a tendency to say, well, I don't plan to ever do this. So I don't ever say, I never say never now, because that'll happen.
Yeah, I was very snotty about it too. I will never do traditional inks. I'll never do. Yeah, well, here I am.
All right. So so basically, Tommy, you get all the panel borders on first, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And
right,
then of course I don't have all my stuff over here. So I would fill in all the blacks at this point. I fill in all the borders. So now you see all the borders are inked
right
now. So I'm gonna just make another layer because I don't have everything with me. But then I would start inking. So after I got it all done, and I would flatten all that down to just one layer that's still above the line art, and I would just start inking.
Okay.
Right on top of it. And so that's where I would pick my brushes over here. I'd use my nice little sable, type of just brush, and then I'd just start inking. Let me sit a little better so I can get a good stroke here. And then I would just
So I noticed you picked a foreground object to begin inking.
Well, I mean, as I was saying all this stuff about the border stuff, it sounded like it was starting to get a little boring. So I thought I would ink something rather than keep working.
No, actually, I was just wondering.
No, really, what I would do is I would do, after I did all the borders, I'd start working on the background stuff. I'd just go ahead and start ruling out all of this,
the lines?
Stuff that's behind here. I'd go ahead and do all of the backgrounds. And so that way I'm starting to build my layers up, like making sure that I've got my foreground objects compared to the middle, and then the stuff that's in the way background I'd ink a lot thinner, so that way I would get because we're dealing with a flat surface here, but as the inker, we're supposed to ink it in such a way where it still looks like it's has depth to it.
Yeah.
And
so you normally choose the background to start first with it.
Yeah, I like to go because that way I can build from there. So I don't, because I mean, I know this hand needs to be really thick, but then also this hand is, touching this black over here too.
Yeah.
So, I've got to deal with the fact that it's going to be up against something dark too, but you still want to try to do thick, thicker stuff
and you
close to
you and I
and
just
then-
had you and I just had a conversation about this the other day about how these objects that are close to you when you're looking at the comic book page, how those objects should have really thick lines, and how a lot of inkers today are afraid, they seem afraid to ink something close to you with really thick lines to help that three-dimensional thing.
Yeah, you'll see some inkers where they just ink everything the same width,
and that looks
and
like
it
a
just
coloring
flattens
book.
it. Yeah, and well, I mean, coloring books are great, but this needs to
but they're
have
not
some
comic
depth
books.
to it.
Yeah,
That's right.
Yeah.
And it needs to have some depth to it, and different surfaces and different pieces of the art needs to be inked different, so it gives it a different texture. The metal things need to look metal. The hair needs to look like hair. It needs to be flowy. It needs to, so everything's got to be inked a little different. It's not what was that movie where they called us tracers? It's not just tracing. Maybe it is a little bit, but it's not really. There's a little more involved in it.
Chasing Amy.
Oh, let's not talk about that movie.
Yeah.
All right. So, all right. Thank you, Tommy. We're going to go ahead and rotate now. Becca, you ready to talk a little bit?
Sure. So I am. Let me remember how to do this.
You're gonna try to boot me off.
Yeah, I'm gonna try to boot you off.
Let's see if I can figure out help you out. Stop share. There we go. Boom. I stopped share.
All right. So.
Did I do it? No, I didn't do it. Hold on. Share. Okay. Is it sharing?
Yep.
Okay. So I like to turn my inks to blue lines as well. I do the same thing in Clip Studio. I'll go up here to the left.
So let me interrupt you just for a second. Just for a second, real quick.
What's up?
So so this, I wanted to just point out what you're inking.
Okay.
I made the mistake during all the coloring, so I'm trying to make sure that if y'all don't mention it, we get it in. So this is a character design for a book. Did I tell you the title?
You probably did, but
Okay. All right. So
Oh,
it's
no.
it's for a new book that we've just slated, and we'll talk a little bit more about this toward the end. It's for a new book called Something Big, and Sid Williams is the writer for that. Brand new, I mean, we're just the script just went to the penciler. The penciler is Chris Lanning, who should be working on that, and possibly might even have the first page done. I'm not real sure. But he is working on that. And so these are some character designs that Chris did before launching into the artwork. So to the script. So that's what you're inking, right?
yeah, and they're
And you and I know why you're inking it.
you and I know why.
You and I know why. Yeah.
Because it's super fun to ink.
Well, there was another motive behind it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So. Yeah.
So
all right.
Well,
So
what is it?
No. That'll come a little bit later. We'll talk about that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm used to working with blue lines, and it is a lot easier on the eyes. I have mine up to the left, so I just switch it to blue, and I like to still ink and Procreate.
Cool.
So I bring it up in Procreate, and a lot of times I'll just lower it a little bit so it's not too dark. And when I'm inking with this type of style, I use just like the studio pen. It depends on like the art style. I use different inks. I have like all different types of ink styles that mimic traditional inks. But for this one, I'm going to go with a more smooth look. And I always start with the outside, and then I work my way in. So I'll do the outside of a character.
So you
if I'm doing
kind of like an
I
outline the character.
Yeah, I outline the character first, and then I go thicker on the blacks, and I like to do thick to thin a lot.
Yeah, we like
so
that
you
a
get
lot.
that shadow look. When I'm doing comic pages, I like that line. When I'm doing comic pages, I always start with the panels as well.
Right.
Which is easier, and then I keep the panels on a different layer. So if I do mess up on an ink and I didn't like how it came out, it's easier to correct. But yeah, I jump around a lot, but that's from used to doing traditional inks, trying to avoid
Smearing.
smudging. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
So I jump around a lot when I'm inking.
Now, Tommy talked a little bit. I can't remember if it was last week or whether we were just talking separately about because I know John talked about it a little bit. Maybe this was in our group about the feel of the digital. How and John, which we haven't got to yet. John talked about he loved the feel of the brush on the paper, and Tommy said he used some kind of cover, some kind of pad on the screen pad.
Yeah, there's like a screen protector, right?
Okay, so do you do the same thing, or are you just directly on the glass?
I have an OtterBox because I'm a klutz and I drop everything, and it has a screen protector.
Okay.
I would love to get one of those because, sweaty hands on the screen, it kind of sticks sometimes.
Right.
But I have a friend who has one, and it's awesome, and I'm really jealous.
Now, see, I like the slick screen.
Huh. So all right, so let's pause for just a second, talk about this. So the slick screen, do you think that mimics the smooth style of Bristol board, whereas the pad might replicate more of the rough tooth Bristol?
Sort of, yeah. I've always liked very smooth, clean lines, and I like the feel of even when I'm coloring, I like the feel of the glass. I don't think I'd like the
No, to me, I use a matte screen protector on it, and to me that feels like vellum paper to me, rather than the glass. The glass is just, to me, is like trying to draw glass on glass. It just I need a little bit of a tooth, and even the vellum, not the rough paper, but vellum paper. Vellum is the smooth paper, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. This to me feels like I'm drawing on vellum paper rather than just glass. The straight glass to me just is with it's the tooth of the it's the pencil itself too. It's so you got a piece of plastic drawing on a piece of glass. You know what I'm saying? And the plastic on the glass just doesn't do it for me. So that little bit of tooth that this screen protector gives me makes it feel like I'm actually have a brush on, to me anyway. Makes it feel like
I don't know.
actually
I can't
drawing.
explain it. I mean, I use 500 cold press Bristol when I'm inking.
Oh yeah,
And
that's why I love that stuff.
Yeah, but I don't know. I just like the smooth feel of the glass. It's personal preference, I guess.
Yeah. When drawing, I always like drawing on rough paper, but I hated inking inkers that are inking pencilers that inked on that super rough paper of like, I just don't want to ink that paper.
And I bled like a
oh man, that's right. And you tried, and if you had to, you accidentally had to, if you had a quill and you're sitting in there trying to, do some rocks or something, you just tear it into shreds. Oh golly.
Yeah, you get spider legs everywhere. Yeah, spider legs everywhere.
Yeah, it's bad. But you got some. But as a penciler goes, me, drawing my own stuff, I love drawing on rough paper. I just hate inking on it.
Yeah. Well, it's funny. I had to ask that because obviously, we're talking the digital thing here. One of the concerns that as an editor, at Malibu, I think Marvel did it as well, but at Malibu, we always sent out paper to the artist. And we always had to ask because, artists, they don't all like the same. And this is partly why I like these streams, because you guys Alex is giving a thumbs up. Artists always like something a little bit different. And so we would always, so we'd always ask the penciler, obviously, because they're the guys, right? You guys know this. They're generally kind of the rock stars of the book.
They're the rock star. Let them draw.
That's right. Yeah. But one of the things that, in my experience as an editor, one of the things I always found is pencilers, and this is not a blanket statement, but in general, pencilers preferred a page with a little bit of a tooth, where inkers preferred a page that was a little smooth. Yeah, smoother, right? And so it was always kind of that, it was a kind of a tough balancing act because, when you're an editor, you're like, well, I don't want to tick my inkers off, but, it's like, okay, the penciler wants to do this. And
even with a brush on that rough paper, you could see the little nicks and crannies and all the little, try to do a nice smooth line, and it's still poppy.
Well, and it would sometimes bleed, right? It had a tendency to bleed a little bit.
The bleeding is what I call spider legs, because you get this little.
Oh, okay. Well, I know what spider legs is now, but I'm like, I don't know.
Because it would go into the little, the pores of the paper. And
right. Okay. Cool.
And then it would scatter.
Or if you really have bad paper, I'm not going to name any of it. Barb probably, we could have a whole discussion about this.
Paper.
Some companies back in the time.
I'll make a note of it here. We'll have a session about paper, but not tonight.
There's some companies that make blue line paper. I'm not saying any names. Some of their paper at the very beginning, when they started, printing paper, it was just bad. It was like trying to ink on like toilet tissue. It was bad. Or if the penciler started drawing and you had to erase something and you had to turn around and ink over it, their erasing would even make it worse. And then you really couldn't. Barb and I know it's just terrible. Oh, Barb's gone.
I like
on
watercolor paper.
I lost your picture on my screen.
We lost Becca. So let's.
No, she's
no. I mean, you're there. We lost your screen share.
Yes,
so
I wasn't sure if I was still sharing or not, and I figured I'd just come back.
That's okay. All right, let's jump over to John. And John, walk us through. Can we see your pages, John? Are you?
Yeah.
Okay.
I was gonna.
What do you like inking on, John? Rough, or you like it rough, or you like it smooth?
I use Bristol.
Rough Bristol or smooth?
No, it's smooth. It's smooth. but the brush still reacts differently to the Bristol than it the pen on a glass screen. So
yeah,
My phone's gonna die pretty soon, so I'll switch over to the iPad in a minute. But you won't see me
Okay.
using it anymore. It was
All right,
really
so
strange.
John, tell us what we are looking at there.
that's a page from Friar Rush #2.
Number 2, that's right, Friar Rush issue number 2. So, and as we mentioned earlier, when Becca was talking a little bit, Friar Rush is slated to be kickstarted in July. John, Sid is the writer for that. John inked it. Becca colored it, and for all of you who are following Silverline, this book is ready to go. We could kickstart it right now, right? But the book is ready to go, and unfortunately for it, it just kind of had to get in line behind Twilight Grim and Divinity. So it's ready, and we're excited to kickstart it. And as you can see, John is working on issue 2. So
yeah, and lately I've been kind of inking everything, and because I ink at work too, with a Tombow.
So kind of technically, you get paid to ink.
I guess you can say that.
yeah.
But this is what I fill with.
Okay, what is that?
It's a super brush.
I use a big old Sharpie marker.
No.
Yeah. I think I saw Walt Simonson use a great big fat Sharpie.
This right here is a fiber. It's filled with India ink, just like most of the
Oh,
others.
it's a refillable? That's pretty neat. What brand is it?
I wish. It's a fiber castle. It's not refillable.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So John, I noticed that you have some inks on your page, but you don't have panel borders.
It depends on if I forget my ruler or not when I start.
Okay.
If you're at work and I got my markers, I'll start.
Oh crap! I don't have my ruler with me. All right, let's go ahead and just get this going.
Okay. So so do you start with the foreground figures or the background figures?
I actually start with the foreground and work my way back.
Okay.
Because I ain't scared of that big old fat line.
That's good, yeah. And I think if you remember, you and I had a conversation about that in Memphis when we first met, and I think that's you and I talked about these big fat lines.
Yeah, I'm not scared of it at all.
Yeah.
I'm gonna get this moved over here where hopefully you can see a little bit of it.
Yeah, I love to point my students sometimes to. You got a heavy shadow there. I love to point my students to some of the old. Who was the guy who inked Jack Kirby so much with those great old big fat lines? Barb, you might know that.
That inked Jack Kirby?
No,
Joe
inked Jack Kirby.
Joe Sinnott?
Well, that's not who I'm thinking about, but I can't remember. I'd have to go look it up. So what are you? Is that a brush that you're using there?
Yeah, it's a brush pen. It's a Tombow brush pen.
Okay.
And as you can see, I get a pretty decent variation. So
I don't ink with my glasses on.
No. I sound like I lost something here.
Unless I'm splattering. Like doing splatter.
Oh.
Your eyes.
I just can't see with that close up with my glasses on.
Oh, you know what? That's another good session. How do you do special effects? We're not going to not today, right? But that's another good.
Well, as an inker, it's a thing you got to do, and I have like 6 toothbrushes over here that I use for splatter and stuff like that.
I remember the first time I ever saw that. Probably around the time that you and I met, Tommy, is I think I saw Stephen Butler doing it. I'm like, what the heck are you doing? And
he brushed his teeth and then he pulled it out and went splat, splat, splat.
Yeah, probably Stephen. Yeah.
I've also got an X-Acto knife too, so I can do some stuff with it too.
Yeah.
So.
I get some of my best smoke effects with a thumbprint.
Oh,
interesting.
I tried that. I haven't figured that out yet.
I've got
I haven't figured out how to make it look good.
I have a wonderful Superman, Wonder Woman, Batman piece that's got all smoke in the back, and it's got all my thumbprint. It's just beautiful.
Tom Mandrake showed me a cool effect to use with the razor blade.
For rain?
yeah, just all the
Yeah.
effects to like break it up.
Bill
It's a lot
Reinhold
of
does
fun.
that really, really well.
Yeah, so you guys need to make notes of all these cool little tricks that you can do with special effects, and we'll have a whole episode donated, dedicated just to special effects.
I
Yeah,
know.
I feel like taking
figure all
a
this out on my
whiteout
own.
pen, and once
Yeah.
you ink it, you can come and do all kind of crazy.
Yeah,
Oh,
gel
yeah, I've seen that.
pens and
Mhm.
whiteout pens.
An old dull bent quill pen that you
Anything.
skip across the page to make it spit.
Yeah,
The strings,
anything.
your sweater, when you accidentally dip it in the ink, you just gotta use.
You mess up, you spill ink across it, and you go, "I'm gonna make that into something."
I even have a
Happy
like a
accident.
sponge that I use as some whiteout for some
Oh,
stuff.
yeah.
So
Huh.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, all this stuff is pretty cool, and I think that I wouldn't have guessed half of what y'all are talking about.
Used to use to do star patterns, would use like liquid frisket. You know what the frisket is? The kind of stuff that you would the painters would actually to do, and you just take that on your brush and you flick it all over, let it dry, and just black it all in, and you wouldn't know where
you
the
mean
stars
this
in
stuff?
till you wipe it off. Yeah, and then you get great star patterns. You may get two small ones. You have to go and fill in some of the tiny ones that aren't going to reproduce, but you get some really good happy accidents there.
Huh.
Yeah, the toothbrush with the whiteout works good for that too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I tried to go for I don't know how long it was. I tried to see how many books I could do in a row without having to use any whiteout. To try, if I made a mistake, I would try to fix it and to say, I'm gonna how many pages could I ink in a row without messing up or putting one bit of whiteout on the paper.
Very, very rarely ever use whiteout.
Well, or any kind of white. Yeah.
I
I'm
don't
talking
make
about
mistakes.
no white. Yeah. No, you just make them work.
Yeah.
Huh.
So do we have Alex over there inking with?
Yeah, about to head to Alex.
He's doing a with a Pigma pen. He's using Pigmas.
I think that's just a ballpoint pen is what he's using.
Alex, can you hear us, Alex?
Yes, I can.
Excellent. Brett, you can put Alex and John both on the screen. So Alex, it looks like you have got that panel mostly done. Do you also start by doing your panel borders?
Yes, and even when I'm penciling, I ink my panel borders as well.
Whoa! Back up. What now?
So when I pencil, the first thing I do, I'll get a page that has no pencils on it yet.
So you said ink. Do you mean that you pencil your panel borders first?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
There you go. Here's a really good. No pencils on it.
Okay.
But the borders are already inked.
Oh. That's interesting.
Well, because he knows exactly it's gonna be perfect. He's got it figured out. While he's penciling it, he knows what he wants. He's already done his thumbnails. He's got it done. He's got it perfect.
But yeah, so I've actually already had to do a second page. I think it was for the 4th page of issue 3, just because I wanted to get rid of a panel. But I just find it easier whenever I'm erasing the pencils, so I don't lose the panel border. But yeah, when I'm inking, I do start with the panel borders just because, so I know where to kind of end my lines.
Yeah, cool.
And
so here,
go ahead.
No, here's a question for you. As one who has spent a good number of hours in the last couple of years cleaning up some scans of some of our classic books, did somebody just laugh? Who laughed? Why you laugh?
Becca, she laughed. It's her fault.
Number one son.
Yeah, number one son. Yeah, see, they can't hear you, right? Did they hear that? Yeah. Okay. So Brett made the. Yeah, we can hear Brett, but the stream can't hear. Yeah, Brett laughed because he said I had him scan all of them, which is true. I had him scan all of them, but I've spent time in Photoshop trying to clean them up so that I can give them like Becca the pages of Marauder and Barb the pages from Sirens. I try to get those cleaned up. One of the things I noticed in a lot of those pages is that it's not infrequent that the inkers cross that line. And of course, one of the things I've been doing, I don't spend a lot of time on it, but if it's easy for me to do, I'll go and try to white out those lines. But so Alex, since we're looking at yours and I see some ink marks that go outside the lines there, do you go back? Yes. Yeah. Do you go back in general and do you clean those up, or do you just kind of, is it a judgment call?
Oh no, I clean them up. They're on the pencil pages. I clean them up too.
Okay.
If I can, areas and whatnot, with that magic stamp. But yeah, I would go in and clean this up for the panel borders for the colorist.
Cool. Very cool. So Tim, do we have any, we've kind of run through all the inkers here. Do we have anybody ask any questions about inking or anything?
Nothing about inking, just kind of the few business related things that I've passed
Kind of just
on
sent to
to
me?
you.
Okay.
Yeah. We did have someone say hi from Turkey that he's enjoying kind of the lesson we're giving.
Very cool. That's cool. Yeah, I think you know, we've talked about this before. I think this will be the kind of streams that these craft streams that folks can come back and watch the recordings of and say, oh, well, this is how they do that. This is how that's happened, and it can help them hopefully. So, you guys have anything else to add about starting a page? Anything that I didn't ask you that you say, well, we need to talk about this starting a page?
Not that. I mean, I do clean up the borders if I'm coloring. If I see the inks or if I see things that are out, I'll go in and just clean it up really quick.
Really?
Yeah, just to tighten it up. Like, I feel as a colorist, you want to make sure it looks as best as possible, and that includes like any minor mistakes that were overlooked.
Well, when I go outside, I'm adding this to Becca's thing. If I go outside the border, I did it on purpose. So don't be cleaning up my inks.
Yeah.
No.
I mean, it's more of like that, like it's flat, like a.
Yeah, I know. I'm just messing with you.
Yeah, Tom.
This and it's like.
Don't listen to half of what I say.
Yeah.
Well, every inker has their own procedure for doing pages. Now, there's a lot of inkers who will like to sit down and eyeball the entire page and plot out the large blacks.
Yeah.
And do all those first. And there's some inkers that will ink one panel at a time, finish that panel, move on to the next panel. When I was working on original pencils, I always worked from the lower right-hand corner up, which was incredibly
Lower
backwards.
Yeah, because you're right-handed, right?
Yes, and I would start in the corner and I would work my way up to the top left-hand corner because that way I didn't smear my pencils.
You know, I kind of would do when I was doing it traditionally. I'm trying to think back. It's I think I different than I do digital because you can blow things up when you're doing it. So it's really kind of hard to see the whole page at one time, especially on these smaller screens. But you know, I kind of started with just doing all the background stuff and then jumping around. But it depends, you know, usually.
So let me ask you a question, Tommy, though. You say you started doing the background stuff. Could that be because part of your...
I know where you're going.
Yeah, you do. Yeah,
I do know where you're going.
Will you think it could have anything? Because all right, so one of the things, can I say it? Is it okay?
Sure.
Yeah. So one of the things, part of some of Tommy's earliest work in the industry was as a background inker for Jimmy Palmiotti. He did a lot of it uncredited, but it was just the kind of thing that he would say, you know, I need all these backgrounds. So Tommy got used to doing a lot of backgrounds.
Yeah.
So
that's time Jimmy was inking about what, 50 books a month.
Oh, he was crazy. Yeah, crazy amounts of books.
It seemed like it.
So that's kind of my question. Do you think that
I don't know, maybe so. Maybe so. I just get the pages and I'd knock out a bunch of backgrounds. You know, I think I would finish a page at a time because you guys, you know, as the editors needed the pages done, so that's sequentially so you can get them onto the color and stuff.
Right.
If I would get a page that was just insane, I mean, completely detailed, insane, I would tackle the hardest part first to get it out of the way, just to get it done. I would, well, for instance, I worked on Impulse for 2.5 years. And
Right.
the half the year I worked over Ethan Van Sciver.
Right.
And there was a lot of laboratory scenes, and oh my god,
Tech stuff everywhere.
Yeah, I would try to get all the background laboratory scenes done first before I moved on to anything else, just because I didn't want to look forward to them.
You should have hired a background inker.
Oh, we got 2 new questions. if we got
Okay.
time.
All right. Cool. Yeah. Fire away.
All right. First one. They're both from Martin Bertonen. First one is when inking. Can you discuss the difference between someone like Klaus Janson versus Scott Williamson or Scott Williams?
The styles.
Yeah, I would assume those styles. Yeah, very like a West Coast versus a traditional. I'll let the inkers take that one. Who wants to tackle that?
Go, Barb.
Well, every inker develops their own style. I mean, not that you can't be versatile. I mean, if somebody tells me they want a Jack Kirby style as opposed to a Jim Lee style, I can bend my inks to fit the mood. But even so, you can still tell that it's my inks.
Right.
And everybody develops what they're most comfortable with, whether it's loose and organic, or incredibly controlled, like Mark Farmer.
Great
as
inker.
opposed, yeah, or Dennis Cowan. He's just incredibly organic. His stuff, and Bill Reinhold is the same way, incredibly organic. As opposed to, say, Scott Williamson, who's very controlled, or
like a lot of the image guys from the early '90s were very, very West Coasty. I've heard Tommy refer to it as scritchy scratchy.
I don't think it's
the Todd McFarlane
your
one?
bouncy.
Yeah, the Todd McFarlane, that kind of
thing.
Yeah. Well, West Coast style is really kind of, I guess, it's what we used to refer to it in the offices. Is it was the West Coast style, and it was, as Tommy used to say, I don't know if you still do, it's kind of scritchy scratchy.
Yeah, it's just it's personal preference is a lot of it.
Good.
Although if the editor asks you, say,
To ink a certain
did,
way.
Yeah, like I did She-Hulk one time, and the editor asked me to ink her hair like John Byrne, so give her Byrne hair, and it's like, yeah, that's no problem. So I imitated it exactly.
So I'll tell you, from an editor's perspective, one of the things that I always would try to do is try to envision what the penciler has given you on the page and what style of inks would work. So you don't want to put a scratchy guy on a penciler who needs a really smooth line, right? And vice versa. And the other thing, always take into consideration is, what does the penciler like? Does the penciler like a really smooth line? Then you want to try to find someone who can get that smooth line.
It also depends on book content too. Now, I've done a lot of children's book. You want a nice, thick, easy, smooth line for a children's book, as opposed to a dark, gritty, Jack the Ripper style book. Then you want your heavy, lots of more scratchy, scratchy, and dark and rendered. Yeah.
Tim, did you say there was a second question?
There's a second question. Second one is, how long should a page take?
Oh, I have a very
depends on
answer.
details.
I have a very specific, as an editor and one who has been on that side of things, I have a very specific answer that most of the inkers do not like.
As long as it's on my desk by 11:49 Sunday night.
That's right.
49:59.
So all right. So Barb started. You said it depends on the amount of details, or was John said that?
No, I think we all agree on that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, it also depends on the deadline.
It depends in the project, and like if it's a monthly book, well, that means you got to get out a book a month. So if that if it's a 24-page book or a 20-page book, you're at least a page a day. For your part.
I inked full time for 12 years, from 1989 to 2001, and I averaged at least 2 books a month.
Yeah. So, and I know I'm asking you to do math, and I can't do math either. So, in general, Barb, if you were just to try to put together some kind of page average, how many hours per page on average do you say would you guess that you spent?
8 hours.
8 hours, so about a page per day.
Yeah, I tried to make it a work day too, like a normal work day when I was in a studio working, not at the house where you could just do whatever, whenever type of thing.
And this
I
is
started
generally
this at the beginning of the podcast, and this is how far I've gotten.
Yeah, it looks mostly done.
I started this one at the beginning, and I didn't do any.
So yeah, and I'll say from an editor's perspective, that's generally what we think as well. So you want to spend about, and here's some of the thinking behind that, and this is for the question: if you're spending more than about a day per page, you're probably putting too much time into it. And here's the thought process behind that. I know that some people are like, oh, but yeah, I need it to look. Keep in mind, these are comic books. Okay, these are comic books. Generally, they're meant as mass entertainment. I usually ask the question: okay, if you spend 8 hours on this, if you spend 8, 9, 10, 12, if you spend an additional 4 hours to make 12 hours per page, is that going to cause the book to sell that many more copies? The answer,
you have to remember that comics is a business.
Yes.
And you have to look at your art as a business first.
Yeah. And that's hard for artists to do. And I totally get that, because the artists are always, I need this to be perfect. And I appreciate that. I really do. But the other part of it is, you got to remember, okay, I really can't afford to spend 2 days on this one page, because I'm not getting product. I'm not getting the product out. And I think that's certainly for rookies, one of the tough shifts that you have to make. You have to realize that there very much is a balance between how much time do I spend on the page, and, well, is it really worth me spending an extra 4 or 6 hours on it?
And see, that was another thing. When I was doing this full time, for 12 years, I never missed a deadline ever.
Yeah.
And I wasn't the best inker in the business, but I was damn dependable. And that gives you work.
And that's why you got work. Yeah. And as an editor, that, people don't realize, I don't think, a lot of times, how small the industry is. And when there is an artist, the word gets around. If you cannot meet a deadline, people are going to know.
I mean, your stuff could be beautiful. Yep. I mean, talking like, this is the best thing you've seen. But if you can only draw one page in a week, that's not a comic book. You can't get that done.
Yeah. And I was a workhorse, and I didn't do that.
Yeah. Mine was about 2 pages a day is what I tried to do. Right, take the weekends off without working the weekend.
No, I work weekends too. I work 7 days a week.
One more question, Tim?
One more question.
Okay.
Where does embellishment fall in versus accuracy to the pencils?
Ooh, that's a good one. It's kind of theory, isn't it?
Has to do with instinct. The inker's instinct, it kind of goes a little bit into that. I would think. Filling the pencils out.
Pencils, I think. You can get some really loose pencils, and then you still need to turn out a page that looks like a comic page. So they'll want you, and sometimes your page rates are a little more for complete finishes, where you're getting thumbnails and you're drawing everything, compared to like the stuff that Alex is drawing over there, or the stuff that I'm doing for the Trump stuff that's pretty good tight pencils. So I'm picking my thicks and thins and trying to make it a nice dynamic line to make it so it pops, that kind of thing. So
yeah, I prefer tighter pencils, just because I don't have to put as much thought in it. I can turn it off faster.
Yeah, you could turn your brain off and just ink, and not have to worry about it. Yeah.
Alex says thumbs up for that too.
Yeah, when I'm doing embellishing, I always have to keep in the back of my head too that I have to keep the flavor of the penciler true, because otherwise they get pissed off and they won't.
Especially like if it's you get a half a book that are penciled, pretty good, and then the other half he's got behind on it, and you're having to make up for
continuity.
Yeah. Right. Oh yeah, you got to go through and go, I got to make this look like his stuff, and then of course he gets credits for pencils, and you don't get credits for anything.
Well, and one tough thing for inkers, right, in industry wide, is that if the penciler is unhappy with the inker, generally it's the penciler that carries the weight. The penciler can say, I don't like this inker, I need you to get somebody else. More times than not, that means the inker's gone. I've had conversations with, I remember with Tommy was like, dude, I love what you're doing here, but this penciler
Everybody
doesn't
else
like
did
it.
too.
And
Yep.
yeah, everybody else did too. But the penciler is unhappy and we don't want him to bail. And so I gotta, and Tommy, you guys know, Tommy's my longtime friend, right? But this is a conversation I had to have with Tommy.
Well,
and I'm
y'all
like,
gave me
dude,
something else to work on. It's
Yeah,
not like
yeah.
but
right.
but then a couple of issues later, he was gone and I was back on the book inking somebody else.
Yeah, yes, you were. Yeah. So, yeah, it's an unenviable position
Yeah.
that inkers are in because you want your personality to be there, but you have to be true to the penciler.
You gotta work together. So and like Barb was saying, it is a business. So it's if the penciler is starting to get upset that the inker is doing something nutty, then you gotta move things around and keep it going because it is a step. It's all
That's
gotta
right.
get done. It's
It's
a
an
monthly
assembly line.
book. It's an assembly line. It's gotta
At
get
the
done.
at the end of the day, if you don't treat it like a business, you won't be working in it very long. I've
Nope.
worked with pencilers who get further and further and further behind and expect me to make it up, which I do. But then I'll call them up and I say, "Where's the pages?" And I had one penciler going, "Well, I'm just not feeling the art."
Oh,
This is a business.
Oh my
Get off your ass and do
goodness.
it.
Listen, I tell Tim can vouch for me here. In my class, I cannot stand to hear the word writer's block because I say there's no such thing. I'm sorry, you cannot have writer's block. If you claim to have writer's block, I say you're being lazy. Now, that's not to suggest that you don't have an idea that you can't move forward on. Yes, certain story elements can give you problems, and you're like, I'm not sure how to tackle this. But if you're what the heck is that? But if you're sitting,
The UFO just flew by behind you.
But if you're sitting at your computer and staring at it like I can't type anything, then you're just being lazy. If that thing is giving you pause, move on to something else and write something different. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm having done writing before. Like I've certainly churned out some uninspired pages. When I wasn't necessarily feeling it, but there's the kind of the busy work writing, which is how do I get to the next plot point.
Yeah.
It's in the end, and Barb said it's a monthly book. It's got to get out in a month. So the penciler can't, or the writer can't decide that I need 3 weeks to work on this thing.
Right.
Or the penciler is like, oh, I can't. Well, that's where you got to get somebody else to fill in. And
that's something I make very clear whenever I get into a project with someone now being on this side. Is the first thing I say is if you ever need to bounce ideas, I'm here. You have full access to me. Like I am here to fill out when you're not feeling it.
Right.
It's got to get done.
Sometimes it takes that. Yeah. Sometimes it takes that.
There's been several times when I've spent the entire series inking it, but I've had 5 or 6 different pencilers because
me too. I know exactly.
That was the only thing that was consistent.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. So my clock says 11:05, which means we've been on here for about 2 hours. There's a couple of things that we need to do to wrap up. So
have we started?
Yeah. So Brett,
welcome to Silverline Live.
That's right. Pop that image on the screen, and I want Becca to talk about it for a second.
Oh no! What did she do?
Why?
What did she forget?
It's up, so we can't see it, can we?
Oh, I'm gonna switch over so I can see what it is.
Let's talk about it.
Yeah. How can Becca talk about it if she can't see it?
Facebook.com/SilverlineComics.
Yeah, I'm waiting for it to pop
go
up.
Go to the live stream, right? Okay.
It hadn't popped
all right,
up yet.
So I see it on YouTube. Right?
Oh, okay.
All right. So tell us what that is, Becca. How much do you know?
I see it.
You're gonna ask me to remember names to things. This is awesome.
It's a butterfly, and it's got frog wing. No,
she keeps bouncing around, doesn't she, Brett?
I'm not nervous.
Brett keeps moving the image back and forth.
This is a character design, another one that I inked for an upcoming project.
Right.
I'm watching him play with it. It was really fun to do. This was one of the characters that I inked for you, and there was another one I sent your way.
Right. So do you remember the project that it was from at all? I can fill that in if you don't remember.
Thank you.
Okay, yeah. So we mentioned it briefly. This is Sid did a book called The Scary Book in the 90s, which was kind of a horror comedy book. This character that we're looking at here was his name is Phil Chandler, and he was a popular he wasn't the primary character of the Scary Book, but he was a popular character. He's a detective, talked in third person. And so about a year ago, Sid and I started talking about getting this spinoff done. And about a month ago, I can't even remember how I found him. I found the penciler whose name is Chris Lanning, and talked to him after a while. And he's did the character sketches. And as I mentioned, I think a little bit earlier, Sid's finished the script, and he is now working on the first issue. So Becca, do you want to be the inker for this series?
Yes. Yes.
You do? Okay. All right. So Becca's now going to be the inker for Something Big over Chris Lanning. So that's very exciting. Yep. So this is another new project. Now, for all of you who are watching saying, well, I can't wait to see it, it's going to take a little time, okay? Because Chris is just now starting to pencil. Hopefully, I've been talking to Chris. Hopefully, I'll get him on here in about 2 weeks when we have some pencilers jumping on streaming. But he couldn't make it tonight. But so hopefully in about 2 weeks, we'll get Chris to show up. And Alex is pointing to something here. Oh yeah, Phil. Yeah, that he's in the big Silverline ad that Alex has done.
Aww.
So yeah, yep. So so we're excited about that. And now we have just added Becca to the team, so that is very exciting.
I'm excited.
Good. Yeah, I debated it. You know, my wife said, who is not here tonight, she said, because I said, hey, I think I want to do this tonight. She goes, are you sure? What if she says no? And I'm like, no. I'm like, you know, I swapped some emails with her, and she said she liked the style, and she was already talking about inking. So
we could always use more women inkers.
Well, and as Barb knows, Barb can hopefully vouch for me. I don't care what you look like if you can do the work. Doesn't matter to me, right? Yeah. So I see a message here on YouTube. Sid Williams says yay. So so yeah. So excellent. So a couple other things we want to point out. Brett, can you pull up the merch store? I want to remind everybody that we have a fledgling merch store that we're working on. And if you've got ideas of things that Silverline product that you want to see, just drop us a line and let us know. We are using Zazzle. Thank you. I'm glad you pulled it up. We're using Zazzle. So right now you can get a Silverline mouse pad. My wife has the special edition of that one. You can see she's got her name on here. And so, but if you cover that up, that's what you get. This was a sweet mouse pad. I like to use it. But you can get a Silverline mouse pad. We'll probably put some characters on some mouse pads. If there's something you see, there's Silverline shirts. We got some social distancing. So yep, we got the mask if you want to wear some social distancing mask. But if you got an idea for something that you would love to see from Silverline, you're like, oh man, I would love to see a Phil Chandler social distancing mask or whatever. Just drop us a line, let us know, and we'll work on it and try to make that happen. That is a cool thing about Zazzle. It's pretty easy for us to work with. So that's our merch store. We encourage you to go there and fly your Silverline colors, much like I'm flying Kablam colors. We love Kablam at Silverline.
Yes, we do.
Yep. So that's that. And the other thing is, please don't forget to like and share and follow and subscribe. Thank you to everyone who's subscribed to the YouTube channel. As you can hopefully see now, it's named. It is now the Silverline Comics YouTube channel, and it's only thanks to you all for subscribing to it to put us over the number.
And please check out our Kickstarter in a few days.
Yep, yes. We're going to hopefully everyone will watch that. Keep an eye on our website, www.silverlinecomics.com. and our Facebook page. Hopefully, a bunch of you are watching this on Facebook. Keep an eye there. We're going to make all the announcements. If you follow us on any or Silverline on any social media, you cannot have missed the last week been posting all these images, letting you know that our next Kickstarter is coming. So we want to make a really quick splash when the Kickstarter launches, so that we can bring you some more really cool books. So anybody else have anything to say before we go around the murderer's row again? Okay, so let's where can everybody find you? Barb, let's start with you. Where can everybody find you on the social medias?
I'm the only Barb Kaalberg on the internet. Kaalberg is my last name, Barbara Kaalberg. You can Google me. I'm on Twitter, BJKLBRG. On Facebook, just search me on Facebook. I'm the only one there.
All right, excellent. John, what about you? Where can people find you on the social medias?
You can find me on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter in some variation of John Martin or John Vampire Martin or John Martin or something like that. I don't remember. Yeah, I sent them all to you so you can post them up.
I will put them on the YouTube channel.
I also have a Patreon with which I will post every once in a while. If Roland okays it or whatnot, probably like sneak peeks at Friar Rush.
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah, get people excited about it.
So, other than that, that's pretty much where you can find me.
And here, right?
Yeah, and here.
All right.
And here.
Excellent. And Becca, what about you? Where can people find you on the social medias?
I'm just laughing at Alex.
Yeah, me too.
You can find me on Instagram at comic_art, but with K's, not C. I have a Behance, which I'm pretty sure is just Rebecca Winslow. And I don't have a Twitter or a TikTok either.
I think you have a Twitter. I think you have a Twitter. I think I've tagged you on Twitter.
I just followed you on Twitter. Yeah.
Yeah, I think you're RR. I think you're RR Winslow, maybe.
Unless you're tagging some stranger.
I hope not. That would be interesting, wouldn't it?
Twitter.
Let me try to get back to how do I get? Let's go to my profile.
Clearly, if I have one, I don't use it.
Okay, I have RR. I have RR Winslow 890.
And it's comic_art as the.
Oh my god, I do have Twitter. Wow. I should use one.
And now you know.
About that. I have a Twitter too.
All right. So now you got to start posting on Twitter, right?
Yes, I'm gonna start doing that. Post
Right.
on Twitter.
Tommy, what about you? Where can people find you on the interwebs?
It's just Thomas Florimonte Jr. Florimonte is Florimontee. Yeah, just look that up. I'm pretty much everywhere under Thomas Florimonte. It's the only Florimonte. I'm like Barb. It's the only Florimonte. And then you can go to my infernostudios.com webpage. It's got all my links and stuff to all my Kid Hero Inferno Studio books. And then I also have a TikTok page called Tommy Don't TikTok. So I need some followers. And then I'll do something on there. I got 4.
Well, have you done a TikTok yet?
No.
You need to do one TikTok so that people can see.
Okay,
there's a reason to follow you.
So if I can get 10 TikToks, I now sound like a YouTube person. If I can get 10 subscribers, I will. If I can get 10K worth of people, I'll do a TikTok.
10K. Yeah. Good luck with that.
Okay. All right. Just 5 then, because I got 4 now. I need one more.
Yeah. That's probably more like it.
Achievable.
Okay. 4, 5 then.
Tim, what about you? Where can people find you on the social interwebs?
I am on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Tim TK Writer. I am on TikTok at Tim Doesn't TikTok. And I am on Twitch at Agro Bacon, and I'll be going live tonight with some Smite, I think.
Smite. Okay. Yeah. So, Tim, I did talk. Well, Brett's on, so I did talk to Brett the other day, and we're interested in maybe playing some Age of Empires with you sometime.
All right, I will have to practice a lot.
Well, we haven't played it in months and months and months. So, all right, Alex, what about you? Where can people find you? No TikToks. Do you want to say it? Because I can't read it unless we can zoom up to it. Thumbs up.
All right. So,
oh, is it clear on the stream? Okay.
My Instagram is Alex Gallimore 2. My Twitter is Alex Gallimore 25, and my Facebook is Alex Gallimore. And as you can see, I do not have a TikTok.
No TikToks.
And you got to join us.
No.
I'm only doing it because Tim's got one, so that's the only reason why I did it.
Do we have a Silverline official TikTok yet?
No. We actually talked about that. I was just
Flip it around.
So okay,
Roland doing TikTok.
Yeah. Alex, how's Cat and Mouse 3 coming?
It's coming. Finishing up page 15 tonight.
There you go. 15 means we are more than halfway done. Someone I had
3/4.
Two people emailed me this past week, asked me where it was, and I said, so it's coming. So there you go, everyone. You've heard it here. You say you're working on page 15, or you finished 15?
I'm finishing up page 15.
All right, so almost finished with 15. So
and this is the cover for number 4. So
yes, yep. So yeah, and the other thing is, since we're talking about number 3, is I need some letters for that. So one of the things we're trying to do with Cat and Mouse is run the old-fashioned letters pages, and we had one in number 2, and so I need some letters for number 3 because I haven't gotten any yet. So I need some letters because it's coming up. So send me some letters. And we'll put it. Well, there's a chance. Depends on how many we get, obviously. Chance we'll put it in issue number 3.
I'll write you something.
All right,
I'll
thank you.
send a letter.
I appreciate that. Okay, so anybody else have anything to say? All right, so thank you everyone for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, follow, share, all that other stuff, and remember to make mine Silverline.
Bye.
Good night, everyone.
Everybody, take care. Stay safe.